Hello and welcome to the Hubscale Podcast. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Dan Schiappa, President of Technology and Services over at Arctic Wolf. Dan, absolute pleasure to have you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you. Awesome to be speaking to you today. Dan, if you could just give us a bit of an overview of yourself, just so that the listeners know exactly who you are.
Sure. As you mentioned, my name is Dan Schiappa. I'm the president of technology and services at Arctic Wolf, a leading cybersecurity company. And what that means is I'm responsible for all the product development, architecture, AI, kind of all the technical bits, but also we have a 24/7 global SOC manned by 1,000 security experts. So one of the largest private SOCs in the world. And that's a key element of our business. And so I manage that piece as well. And that includes things like incident response and a SOC and what we call our concierge service.
Awesome. So a small role then,
A
basically, at
little
Arctic
bit,
Wolf.
just tiny one.
Nice. Well, obviously, congrats as well. It's definitely in order with the recent promotion to president. So, yeah,
Thank you.
just wanted to share that. But look, Dan, it's looks like hell of a journey that you've been on. Obviously, from developer, Oracle developer, and obviously now to president. We're obviously going to talk around your journey, and then obviously get into a little bit more about Arctic Wolf and what's going on over there. And but I think first and foremost, yeah, it'd be great to hear about your journey of how you've got to where you are today.
Yeah, so I studied computer science at university and jumped into some local engineering firms for a developer, and then I landed with Oracle, which was a lot of fun. I've always found out that I'm like always on the bleeding edge of technology, and so Oracle was certainly the case. I was working on what they called interactive television. It was kind of the precursor to the internet, and we built a lot of things back then for TVs that we still haven't even seen replicated yet today. So it was a lot of fun. It was kind of Candyland as an engineer. You got to do a lot of different things. And then after that, I kind of jumped into an architect role at Informix, and then from there into a business role. So I joined a startup as a strategy and business development leader. We ended up selling that startup to Eastman Kodak, and then I started my own company that Sony funded, a bunch of different divisions of Sony. And so I did that for 4 years. We sold that company. And so I joined Microsoft, jumped back into the technical side of the house. This was really my introduction to cybersecurity. For the most of my 8 years there, I led the Windows security team at Microsoft. So that was building all the infrastructure inside Windows, building some products as well, managing a rather large team. Got to work a lot with Bill Gates because security was a really critical
Nice.
part of the strategy for Microsoft at the time. It was actually Bill who asked me to be his technical assistant, and then he decided instead he was going to retire. So he asked me to go over and help the entertainment devices division as the head of strategy and corporate development. So I went back to the business side, worked in the finance group for a couple of years, and then I left that group and went back to kind of delivery and led the display advertising team. I wanted to get back to cyber. That's with my passion,
Yeah.
and so I jumped back to RSA security and what you would now kind of call the chief product technology officer role. Managing R&D and
Mm.
product and things of that nature. But then about halfway through my journey there, they split the company into two business units, and I led a business unit which also included multidiscipline sales team reporting to me and finance, and so it was kind of almost my own mini P&L. And then I went over into Sophos in a general manager role as well. And then over time, I just took on every business unit. And so they gave me the title of chief product officer because the business card was getting too wordy to put GM of four different business units down. Um, Had a great run there. Loved working at Sophos, 8 years there, and then had an opportunity to join the rocket ship of cybersecurity, which was Art Wolf, and it was just a fortuitous thing for me to be able to join a company that was one of the fastest growing in the industry and really kind of transforming, I think, how cybersecurity is delivered. And it's just been an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. What a background. How was Bill Gates?
Bill was he was an interesting character, that's for sure. I think brilliant, obviously, very demanding, and obviously security. When I joined, he wrote this very famous security memo because there was a lot of issues at Microsoft around security, and I joined right after that memo. to help kind of solve it. And so he was very demanding, but great to work with. I enjoyed working with him. I think he enjoyed working with me and my team as well. We got a lot done, which was really good. For all some of the complaints about Vista and Windows 7 and like we really changed the security infrastructure in the OS substantially. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Amazing. Do you I suppose getting to where you are today, you've obviously come from technology, engineering, previous, that's where you started. But then obviously, like you said, you moved into like a business role. And do you think that's sort of played and done really good wonders for you into these type of leadership positions and helped, propel your career to where you are today?
Yeah, I always thought, being a technologist made me a smarter business person, and understanding business made me a smarter technologist. I think it's good to understand both sides. I think one of the things I did see at Microsoft a lot was technologists making decisions that weren't great for the customer or great for the business because they just thought it was a cool technical thing or it was, great technical prowess, and they didn't kind of bring that business centric mindset into character. And I've seen the opposite too, where it's you're not really building the right technology to be future proof for things that might come because you're so maniacally focused on solving a near term problem.
Yeah. So having that blend is definitely key. Is that I think yeah, what I was just sort of going to go into now is Arctic Wolf. Obviously you've been there for a good 3.5 years. Rocket ship is what you called it. How's tell us a bit about I suppose bring it back. I know a lot of the people, a lot of the viewers will know exactly who you are and who Arctic Wolf are, but tell us, what do you guys actually do? What do you have on offer?
Yeah, so I think historically we started off providing kind of security operations services to companies, and then
Mm,
I think that emerged into what was called the MDR market at the time. And I think we've evolved over the 14 years of our company, and certainly the last 3.5 years since I've been there, to really become a security platform company. We generate about 9 trillion security observations a week into our platform. So to put that in perspective, it's like a
mm.
1,000 times the scale of Google search. And
Wow.
every day we collect the equivalent of 10 years of Twitter data. So it's just like massive, massive platform. And what we're able to do now is build both products and service offerings on top of that platform. So we started obviously and most known for our MDR service. So out of those 9 trillion security observations, we're taking data from all the different security tooling and IT tooling you have in your ecosystem. We didn't start as a product company, so XDR was really kind of what we had to do because we didn't have
Mm,
products. And so we took it from everything. We built bespoke detections looking across multiple attack surfaces. We did some really advanced stuff. Then over time, we started building our own product portfolio. So we started with things like vulnerability management, service we call managed risk. We started offering security training. And then more recently, we entered the endpoint business with our acquisition of Cylance. And all
mm,
of that rides on top of a real platform. So I think a lot of companies use platform and portfolio interchangeably, but they're
mm.
very different. Obviously, spending many years at Microsoft in the Windows division, I kind of know what a platform is, and that's what we set out to build. And I think we probably have the most robust one in the industry.
Nice. Yeah. How is how's that transition been? Because you do see it a lot in this space now. A lot of amazing service players, that are really strong on that front. They offer great services to their clients and their customers, and they're trying to transform into a bit more of a product platform orientated business. How's that
Yeah.
been for you guys? Seems to be obviously going very, really well.
Yeah. So for us, I think, whether it was genius or just luck, historically, the company decided we're going to build our own tech stack. So we're
Yeah.
not going to ride on a third party tech stack. And I think a lot of the traditional MDR vendors took a big dependency on third party technology. And what that does is it just kind of limits how you can scale it, from a cost effective perspective. It limits how you can innovate because you're really relying on somebody else to do a lot of innovation for you. And so we built our own tech stack top to bottom. So we're able to kind of operate a pretty heavy people oriented business if you're getting the service delivery side of the house, but we do it really at product like margins financially. And that's really, really hard to do. So a lot of that is building out the right tech stack, but it's also kind of tuning those security operations to work at scale. And that was not, something that, well, we're smarter than everybody. That's how we figured it out. We've just been doing it for a long time, and we figured out what worked and what didn't work a lot by trial and error, but we got it tuned in pretty good now. So I think a lot of companies struggle with that adjustment because they're kind of riding on somebody else's tech stack. And then the companies that built their own tech stack, the kind of the newer kind of vendors into this platform space, they've also grown historically through a lot of M&A. And so they have a broad security portfolio, but now they're struggling with how to get the benefit of connecting those products together. And so for a customer's perspective, one product actually informs another product. That's the value of a true platform. And so the difference between a portfolio and a platform is a portfolio, you have a lot of products with the same logo on it, but they're not really necessarily providing additional context to one another. And so I think you got both ends of those markets kind of trying to meet in the middle, and they all have their different challenges. And I think luckily we're in a really good position to take advantage of that because we have built our own tech stack. We've built it at massive scale. We've been able to tune our security operations as a high margin business. And now as we start adding more products on top of that platform, it just makes everything else that's already there more magical.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, what's been the biggest, obviously 3.5 years, what's been the biggest success for you within
I think that is kind of making that the next generation platform. So I think when we started, Arctic Wolf had a good platform, but I think it really didn't have the Windows like platform elements that we really needed to kind of take it to the next level. And so, we're there now. We have, I think, a super robust platform that's, almost unlimited in scale, super reliant, super fast, very cost effective to operate. And those are really hard things to combine to do. And again, it's not because we're necessarily the smartest people in the world, although I think we are. It's just we've been doing it for a long time. And the leadership team I've brought here with me has been building platforms their whole lives, and so we just kind of know how to do that. And so I'm pretty proud of the progress we've made.
Amazing. There's a couple of things that you've mentioned in the last couple of minutes. It's that leadership side, bringing in the right people, then also the M&A side of things, which both of them I'm really keen to touch on. I'm trying to think which one to go first, but I think the building and the scaling of the right team around you. Tell me a bit about that, and tell me a bit about how that is so important to having the right people around you to help build and scale, and how you've done that yourself, to where you are today as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things that is really important about building a scaled organization is making sure you bring in people who can also scale, but you also trust to lead their function. I think I follow the old cliche of trust but verify kind of model, where we certainly have lots of inspection points. We're very data driven in what we do, but I have a leadership team that within their functions, I know they can execute and they can do what they need to do, and I don't have to micromanage them. I think one of the best and worst things to ever happen to tech was Steve Jobs. I think obviously a great innovator, big brain, push for excellence, but also he created this culture that micromanaging your people is a great thing, and I just don't subscribe to that. I think you can't scale a business that way, and so you bring in talented people. You give them the tools they need to be successful. The way I look at it in my roles, I work for my team. They don't work for me. Like, what can I do to help you be more successful? What guidance do you need? What roadblocks can I remove? What funding do you need? Like, how can I help you be more successful? And I think when you take that kind of servant leader attitude, you're able to scale a lot better.
Yeah. I see it where I am at the moment, and to be fair, I've had managers, the last sort of 10 years that have always done that. I think making sure that the people around you are all empowered and doing the right things, and have the freedom to do what they need to do, but also keep on learning from everybody else. I think is so important to make sure that, like you said, they scale. We're definitely not scaling the size and the scale of these guys, but I think it's apparent in any shape, size, or form, business, that's the motto that you've got to have, really.
Oh, absolutely. And you're never as smart as the collective. And so, if you bring in people on your team that have complementary skills and complementary knowledge, you're going to build a tremendous knowledge base, particularly as you mentioned, as you're learning from one another. I love being in an industry like cybersecurity because you're always learning. You're never
Yeah.
done. You can't ever put your feet up on the table and say that problem solved. But I also love learning from people, and so I make a point to try and connect with as many people in the org as I can. I have these open office hours that I do that anybody in the organization could grab time on my calendar. And I learned as much from talking to them as I'm sure I hope that they learned from me. But it's super valuable for me, and it's important because I remember, being on the front lines, and I just had the courage to walk into my senior vice president's office at Oracle and just talk to him, and people would be like, "You're crazy. Why are you doing that?" He's like, "Hey, he's on the team. Why wouldn't I go talk to him?" And so I've just always kind of kept that mentality, and I think it was something I saw at Microsoft too. I always remember, great story. I was going for a one-on-one with Jim Mulchin, who was the president of the Windows division, and when I walked into his office, one of the QA individual contributors from my
Mm.
organization was in his office whiteboarding something with him. And I thought, what company would a kid, a year and a half out of college be sitting in the president of
Love
Windows to
that.
like whiteboard? Like, it was just such a cool culture that
Yeah.
I want to just make sure we always kind of kept that culture as like there's no pomp and circumstance. We're all in this together. And so when you think about that as a collective organization, it does help you scale better too.
Amazing. I love that story. That's class. Really, really good. And then yeah, the second one, obviously, like I mentioned, so M&As. Obviously I think you mentioned it earlier, the silence M&A. There's obviously been Revelstoke as well, and how. I suppose the question for me is, there's so many, and again, it's sort of with the whole leadership side of things and people, because that is a big thing, when you take on a business and the acquire a business and merge the two, culture and people is so important to make sure that is right. How have you, I suppose, how have you found it with Arctic Wolf, and how's it been going on that front, and I suppose the success of that all.
Yeah, so I think every deal is different. So the last one was the largest one we've ever done was Cylance. One of the pioneers of kind of next gen endpoint, and it's going great. I have to say. So we did a couple things that I think really helped. Is I'm a fan of integrating the organizations as quickly as possible. I'm
Mm,
not a big fan of, oh, they're a startup or whatever, leave them off to the side, let them do what they do. I don't think that kind of breeds the right culture within the company. I think we want to learn from the acquired company, and we
mm,
want them to learn from us as well. And when you're off kind of the side doing your own thing, I don't think that happens. And for us, again, we're trying to build this kind of platform mentality where it's the Arctic Wolf platform that provides the value to customers. And you may see that platform through the manifestation of a product interface, but
mm,
you're still getting the benefit of that platform. So having them get off to the side doesn't do that. We need to get them in, get them part of the platform. And so we did that. So we took their engineering leaders, they merged into our engineering team, product and the product, finance and the finance. And now it's like we're, a few months into this, and it feels like they've been part of the team forever already, because they've just slipstreamed right in. And obviously there's a lot of technical integration they have their own platform, we have a platform, they have their own agent, we had our own agent. So there's things like that. And the one thing I've learned is you have to be patient. These types of integrations take longer than you would like, no matter how aggressive you are. So just be measured in the strategy of what the integration looks like, what success looks like. Don't set your team up for unrealistic expectations and fail. Now,
mm.
there may be some members of my team who listen to this laugh when I say don't set them up for unexpected. Doesn't mean you don't push your teams hard, but you do have to create a path for success, and sometimes that path takes a while to do it right. And
Yeah.
I think when you're doing these types of integrations, it's better to do it right than to do it fast. And so for us, the fast part is getting the org, the people in place. The doing it
Mm.
right part is doing the technology aspect.
Nice. Yeah. No, I think that they're exciting. And I think it's all part and parcel of it to keep the growth and to obviously bring in, like you said, new technology, new platforms, new people, which is important as well to everything. Um, how are you sort of seeing the landscape? Obviously AI is everything at the moment. Obviously we're both at RSA, and I think it was basically an AI conference rather than a cyber conference to be fair to you. But what are you guys doing, about AI? Obviously everybody sees it on them, but tell me what are you looking at, where are you sort of seeing it in the next sort of 12, 18 months as well, but yeah, what's your sort of thoughts on everything with Arctic Wolf and how you're sort of going about it?
Yeah, so I think one of the interesting things is cybersecurity has been embraced AI for a long time.
Mm.
So AI isn't new to us. Again, Cylance was really one of the pioneers of it. There was a project called the Cyber Genome Initiative in DARPA, probably over 15 years ago. And so we've been at using AI for anomaly detection, malware detection, and things like that for quite a while. I think where it's changed now is in the large language models and the ability to use generative AI for a lot of things. And I think what happens is whenever there's a new trend like this, is there's a lot of noise in the system. I think you see any startup in the world that has, cyber blah 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 AI, just VCs are throwing money at them. And the vast majority of those companies are going to fail. Let's just be honest. And it's not because they don't have smart people. A lot of companies are building a feature as a company, and that those never work. They may get acquired, but you're
Yeah,
not going to achieve exit velocity on a scale. And a lot of people are just. I look at a lot of these companies. I go to their leadership team. That's one of the first things I always look at. Many of them have no cyber background, no AI background. They may be smart people, and it doesn't mean they can't be successful in cyber using AI because they don't have that background, but it's tough without some of that historical, experience to kind of know where to go. And so where I think we're at is we've been using it in anger for a long time. We're going to continue to do it for things like anomaly detection, malware detection, all those traditional things that people forget about but are
yeah,
super sexy still.
super important. Yeah, of
And we are going to use it to do a lot of automation within our security operations center. So as I
course.
mentioned, we have 1,000 people in our security operations center. If we continue to grow at the pace we're growing, we can't have 5,000 people on it. So you start to have a disconnected growth plan, and that's going to all be driven by AI. So, and it's a perfect place to allocate AI towards. Like, how do we eliminate a tier one of a SOC and use all AI? How can I make that human investigator 10 times more efficient? How can I automate responses so there's no human involved at all in many cases? And that's all exciting stuff. And I think we're really at the precipice of doing that. The benefits we have massive amounts of data. Not a lot of companies, there's a lot of companies doing SOC automation. They call me all the time. Hey, I want to partner with you. I'm like, cool. How are you training your models? They're like, oh, that's why we want to partner with you. I'm like, no, we got it. So it's not just a massive amount of data. It's from all the different data sources, roughly 100 different products we collect this from. And then again, the human in the loop, for reinforcement learning, 1,000 security operators, we can, just instrument how they do their jobs. And that's feedback into our models. And so I think we're in a very unique position to leverage AI to get that disproportionate scale. And as I mentioned, we're already operating at product like margins. And so now you can start to really double down. And I think when people ask me what is our biggest differentiator and our biggest competitive advantage, it is that we've operationalized security at the scale we've done it as cost effectively as we've done it. And that's the hard part. And so, AI is going to play a huge role in that for us. And of
Mm.
course, like others, part of operating the SOC at scale is self-service for our own customers. So how do we surface interfaces for them to get the information they need themselves without, sending a ticket into the SOC to get it or things of that nature? And so it just makes the customer experience better, but it also helps us automate our SOC because we're removing a lot of the workload off the SOC and putting it in the hands of the customer.
Do you see it replacing, that sort of first line support, first line of the SOC? Do you think that's going to be inevitable, in the next 12, 18, 24 months? Or
I
do you
do. I
see,
do.
yeah.
I think tier one, a lot of that is kind of binary. It's a yes or no
Mm.
into tier two. I think, we can get what I always call 100% practical automation. There's always things that are just not worth the headache to automate. But I think we can get 100% practical automation, say in the next 12-ish months.
Mm.
For us, the good news is that just means those people move into tier two and tier three because we always have
Exactly.
need for security experts, and we do that as a big part of our mission for our employees is graduate them through. So we typically bring in people into tier one and graduate them into two and tier three and into concierge and other security operator roles. And so we'll continue to do that. But I think AI is going to play a huge role in kind of optimizing that tier one.
Yeah. Do you see any risks with AI, the way you're going about it and have done over the last number of years? But yeah, do you see any risks to businesses or yeah, what are you seeing on that front?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of risks. I think there's risks of just using AI and
Yeah.
not knowing how to tune it, prompt engineering, doing things that these foundational models are huge, and they
Mm,
support everything from astrophysics to cooking, right? And so like you have to figure out how to tune things appropriately for your business to get the right answers. And that's why we see what they call hallucinations. It's because the models are just so broad, and if it's not tuned to your needs, you're going to get weird answers. The other part is adversarial AI, and that's a real thing, right? So we're already seeing it in social engineering, which is why security training is so important. We're seeing it in fake video, like you heard that famous story of somebody going on a Zoom with their CFO, and their CFO telling them to wire money somewhere, and it was the CFO voice video, and it wasn't the CFO. Like, so it's going to get crazy on that aspect. We're also going to see things like autonomous ransomware attacks, where you don't need command and control anymore. You don't need a human in the loop. You fire it off. It's agentic. It does what it needs to do, and you sit there and you look at your bank account and wait for money to show up. That is pretty scary, because every time we've seen kind of that evolution towards more autonomy and hacking, from malware as a service to ransomware as a service, you start to enable malicious people with less and less technical skills necessary. Well, when there's a ransomware as a service that is a fully agentic AI bot, like, you don't need to have any technical skills to kind of go and launch that. And so it's going to be pretty scary. Now, the good news is, as security has always been, it's an arms race. So while they're using adversarial AI, we'll use defensive AI to combat it. And I think now, with the capabilities of AI, it's more like a nuclear arms race, where the damage could be very high if you don't have the right defenses in place. And so it just raises the stakes. But I think as an industry, we've always risen to the occasion, but also as an industry, we're still here. So we haven't solved the problem yet. And so the problem will get more complex, and we'll have to be as sophisticated to combat it.
I like it. Yeah, I like it. How's the next 12, 18 months looking for Arctic Wolf? Probably can't give too much away, but anything on the horizon, anything exciting going to be happening that we can delve into or talk about?
I think this is the biggest year in our company's history. I think we're at the precipice of many, many things. I think we're probably the fastest growing private security company at our scale in the industry. We want to keep that up. We want to hold on to that title, which is a high bar when you keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. From an ARR perspective, I think we have to continue to drive our margin profile while doing that. So just not growth at any cost. We want to continue our path to profitability. I think we're going to do some exciting M&A still in the future. I think it's going to be a key part of our strategy to grow our portfolio, and we're going to do a lot more organic innovation. I think AI will play a key role in that, but we'll also do it in many other places around what we call the security journey and the insurability capabilities for our customers. So I think we're going to focus on a lot of cool areas like that. And then, as a guy who builds the bits and bytes and runs things, it's an honor and a pleasure to have a go-to-market team that can just take what you give them and go and sell the daylights out of something. And we have a great go-to-market engine, really, really bright people there who know the customer well, know how to solve for the customer's needs, can really go out and do a strong value proposition sale to our customers. And so, it's just awesome to know that there's this great mix of, I build it, they know how to go and sell it. And I think that's one of the reasons we've had the success that we've had, is the combination of those two things. So I think this is going to be a huge year. We just started our fiscal year, so we're in the first month of our new fiscal year. So I'm looking at this fiscal year as probably the most important fiscal year of our 15-year history.
Super exciting, really, really exciting. Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Really, really pleased to have you here. Thanks again so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Big fan of Hubscale, and I know you guys are going to become the Arctic Wolf of executive recruiting. So I love it, and I'm honored to be a part of your podcast.
Awesome. Can't wait to chat again. Speak to you soon. Cheers, Dan.
Cheers.